Good morning, students. Welcome to Seema Bakshi's Mayapuri coaching classes. Today, we will learn geography, particularly economics, standard and introduction to the economics. We all know that what exactly an economy is. Economy can be studied at personal level, at local level, the city or the state, nation, and international, that is globally. What exactly an economy is? Economy, on broader sense, we can say that give and take, purchasing and selling is of any commodity. Purchasing and selling of any commodity can be termed as a study or a part of economy. Also, in other words, we can call it as a trade. But as we try to understand the economy, the introduction to the economy, world knew this far ahead. In primitive times, as far as India is concerned, there was barter system, give and take of a commodity, of a thing, in place of a thing. That means a thing was exchanged, there was no currency. But as the imperialistic states started coming towards India, or prior to that, the Arabians' introduction to the rupee, as we call it today, was given to India by Sher Shah Suri, the emperor or the ruler from Delhi. After that, there was a vast change. Slowly changes started coming. But the rulers came in India, ruled India. Many of them settled down here, or rather went back, without disturbing the market scenario of this nation, of this India. Broadly studied, economics is a Greek word which means the daily, whatever the commodities we purchase, we sell, and we manage it in terms of money is called as economy. Economy also, we have to understand that can be in different modes. First, the world's economy as we study it today is divided into three types: capitalist, socialist, and mixed economy. What is capitalist economy? Capitalist economy is totally in the hands of private entrepreneurs. The public here or the family, entrepreneur families, are the sole persons who have all the assets and they gain the minimum, not minimum, but maximum profit. The main aim of capitalist is to get more and more money, more and more profit, and for that definitely there is always a struggle to give better. Many times it happens that because of the clusters, because of the protected economy, though the economy is termed as capitalist, people or the entrepreneurs do not provide good access to the quality, and only the quantity that they move towards the market area gives them maximum profit. Slowly, as the economy started to change, as the world started to reshape, particularly after 1850 onwards, economies changed, and in the capitalist economy there came a stiff fight, competition to give better and better. So naturally, today the global leaders, as we term them, Germany, Japan, USA, have this capitalist economy. Each and every criteria that the nation requires is in the hands of the private entrepreneurs. Secondly, after this we will come to the socialists. This is something with the introduction to the Russian Revolution, that is 1900 or 1914 onwards. Russian Revolution gave a new idea of economy to the world. Karl Marx, we have studied it in history, or we will come across as we study history. Karl Marx is the name who propagated socialist economy, saying that poor people are the most exploited ones who can never gain much profit, though they are the hard workers. Naturally, we can understand it here. A factory giving the assets or daily wages to more than 1,000 people. No one can become as rich or cannot prosper as the entrepreneur is. So gaining much more profit or only the maximum profit is the aim of private individual. So that is why we can find the richest people of the world in USA or the companies that are selling their best products throughout the world, either from Germany, Japan. Definitely, there are some other countries also who are, but the majority are from these nations. Apart from that, there are many other nations, particularly Western Europe, who also propagates capitalism. But when we speak about socialism, there are very few countries in the world. Socialism always aims to social welfare. Means profit is never a scenario. Profit is never a concept. Each and everything of the nation is in the hands of the government. We call it public sector. We call it public sector. This public sector, as government represents public, is also known as a public sector. Each and everything is in the government's hand, and government never aims for profit rather than giving the best to the society. So society at large must prosper, and this was the concept that was given by Karl Marx. In the words of Karl Marx, as he says that the society is divided into two parts: haves and have-nots. Haves are the people who own majority of the assets of the world, and that is why they are the richest people. They aim only and only in gaining better profit, never cares about their workers. Exactly opposite to this is socialism. In socialism, every individual is considered, and it is the responsibility of the government to provide much more better assets to the people at large. Naturally, because it aims at social welfare, we come to know that Russia was the first in 1917. After that, China accepted it. Even Cuba is the nation who have accepted this socialism. But today, there are very few countries of the world who have accepted socialism. Socialism is changing very fast, and accordingly, it is very hard to explain exactly in the words of socialism what exactly socialism. Because of the globalization, that is 1990 onwards, as the economy started to expand globally, many other countries started to take over this challenge and entered into the scenario of global prosperity. So, because of this, even the socialist countries, we know today China, many China products are sold in India because it is the concept. Though China aims at social welfare of the Chinese people, yet at the global level, in the open market, it is coming at an economical level to consider that Chinese people must gain much more prosperity, and in this way they are entering into the global market, expanding the territories of give and take, or trade as we call it, at the global level. Same goes with Russia, even Cuba and some other nations, we know that. But ultimate aim is social welfare. So the poor and the poorest people are given the best, or government tries to give them the best. Then we come towards mixed economy. This is one of the major portion that actually can be disturbing to us while understanding. What exactly mixed economy is? Economy is coexistence of private as well as public. That means both coming together here. There are some sectors which are in the hands of private individuals, and some other sectors which are totally under the span of government. Now, because of this, we can try to understand whatever that is in India. India has a coexistence of private and public sector, public government sector. It aims at getting balance between social welfare as well as the profit. People who are having their private entrepreneurs will definitely aim at the profit, but the government entrepreneurs or the government sector, which is also indulging into many of the trading sectors, is always aiming at social welfare. For example, the railways in India. The railway is totally the monopoly of the central government. So naturally, we see that the fare of the railway is comparatively too less for the common people. If we try to understand what exactly the railway traffic is in terms of class 2 fares, then we will be understanding it too easily that the people people moving from one place to another or going to the destination will have not to pay as much as the luxurious traveling assets. Similarly, the other part is in the beginning when India got independence, India was not a rich enough country that may invest in major or multi-purpose projects. For that, neither the private entrepreneurs were ready to take the risk and invest their money in mega projects, major projects. And these major projects or the mega projects which required a huge amount of money investment was then overtaken by government of India. So naturally, the iron ore sector or iron and steel industry, the railways, apart from that there are many others, even the road transportation. In Maharashtra, as far as the state is concerned, Maharashtra state has its own transportation system. We call it ST buses. So state transport is a government monopoly. At the same time, though not in railways, in ST we find that the private sector is also having its own share. So private and public both coming together to give service to the public at large is the main aim of mixed economy. This is also because UK was actually India was the colony of UK, and after UK or England moving apart from India, giving India its own independence, Indian politicians at that time were too close to the habitual system of the political scenario of UK. Naturally, it was easy for us to adapt to this, and we adapted it. Because of this, today there are many service sectors in which government has invested a lot. Best as we call it, ration cards or the commodities that are given through these shops. Ration itself means a limit, are sold to the poor people of a specific class below poverty line who are the best people who are being assisted by the government of India to provide them whatever they require, or the things that government thinks must be provided to them. So main aim of mixed economy is to get the balance between social welfare of the public society and the private entrepreneurs getting their own profit. Ambani, Tata, Birla are some of the names, and there are many others who gain their profit because they are private entrepreneurs. At the same time, the railways, the STs, in the beginning, the airways, the banks, majority of the means as we call them the nationalized banks, are the assets of the government, that is the public sector. So because of this, there comes a limit on the working scenario of the private sector, and the social welfare is easily understood. Government can easily get connected to the people at large. Now, trying to understand all these three, capitalist, socialist and mixed economy, we can understand that what exactly an economy is. After all, the economy is a behavior or a relation between ends and scars which are always available in the market. That means when there is a commodity in the market and we need it, if the people are more to purchase it, price will rise. If many times it occurs that people are there on large scale to purchase a thing is also available in the market on a large scale, and then comes a time. During this, there is a specific time, or we can get an example in terms of a religious festival. There is a religious festival which is to be celebrated, and after that there will be no need of many of the things which otherwise are also available in the market. So during that period, the price rise takes place, and people get the commodities but with the higher prices. During this time, it may occur that the government has to take responsibility or certain measures that people must get each and everything, the household commodities they require at the large, at specific price. That is where we are studying between the social welfare and the profit. If because of the festival people are unable to get the daily commodities, At a higher price, there may be dissatisfaction not only against the government but in the society also. So each and everyone, even the poor, must get the benefit of it. Ration cards are being allotted to the people who are below poverty line, who can get benefit through the ration shops. At the same time, if people are having good income sources and they are above the poverty line, from the open market they can purchase quality products as they require it. So this give and take and mixed economy is one of the things which is more interesting to understand when we move into the markets. But care is taken, utmost care is taken that the poorest person in the nation must not be devoid of whatever the needs are, daily needs are. That is how the coexistence of private and public sector takes place in India, in UK, in Sweden. One of the best or biggest thing we have to understand about the economy is when we try to understand the introduction to the economics, there are certain factors. These factors that affects the economy, and one among them, the most important, is geography. When we study the world, if we try to understand, this is the world is climatically not one and the same everywhere. The climate of the world in all these parts is not one and the same. So naturally, accordingly, the geographical area plays a major role. When we try to understand India, if we try to understand that this is India, India is subordinated by three water bodies. This is Bay of Bengal, now Indian Ocean, and Arabian Sea. So this is peninsula. But at the same time, on the upper part, we know that there is Bangladesh, then there is Myanmar, there is Bhutan, then the China, here is Nepal, again here we comes with Pakistan, a certain part of Afghan, and small area. So these are the areas. Now geographically speaking, this is the mountainous terrain. The highest peaks of the world are here. So naturally, in terms of economy, this is not the same as it is here. So Indian Navy that protects India on the water bodies, the water area India encompasses is 7,500 kilometer waters. Now we can understand it easily. Not only this, but this is also the coastal area. The area according to the geographical scenario as we try to understand is very different. If it is water body, then the economy or the market are available here will not have the same commodities as we are trying to understand it here. The Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, or even Afghan, Pakistan, trade relations as India is having, the Chinese, will be somewhat different as compared to this. Because here is Sri Lanka, here is Bangladesh. Apart from that, the other countries that are here, and there is no space apart from the African continent. So, when we try to understand it geographically, the central India is also different. Naturally, because of the Indian availability as it is here, the climate change. And as the climate change, the commodities that are required throughout the world are not one and the same. They differ. Because they differ, the scarcity or the availability also determines the price. So that is one of the biggest issues. Second is political sovereignty. This political sovereignty directly affects the capitalists, the socialists, and the mixed economy. Political sovereignty means when a country gets its own business, they have their rules and regulations. These rules and regulations determine whether the economy is capitalist, socialist, or mixed. As far as India is concerned, because India has accepted mixed economy, the government of India and the private entrepreneurs both hand in hand carry out all these things. Because India is an agrarian country, we have to understand agriculture is the main source here for the majority of the people to get employment. We have to understand that many of the agricultural commodities that are available in the market are also made available by the government in ration shops. These are the areas where poor people can get their livelihoods much more better, though not luxurious, with the help of government. So social welfare is the main aim as far as India is concerned. At the same time, those who have or those who can achieve economic prosperity are the ones who can get much more. If we understand this, then geographical area and political sovereignty both associated with one at the same time. For geographical area and its political sector, we can understand. Third is population. Population plays a major role because as far as India is concerned, because we are studying India only, as far as India is concerned, and India is having the mixed economy, we have to understand that India's population at the same time is a resource as well as a burden. Now, both the things have, how can we try to get understand? Try to get an example of it, understanding that if the population is well educated, skilled labor, then majority of the people can give them whatever they have the skills to make this nation a better place in terms of technological assets, if they are intelligent enough in scientific terms, putting the science into practice. Apart from that, the political scenario, the respect they have for the constitution also makes them the better place to live in because they will abide by the constitution. Naturally, there will be less stress on the security forces. All these things play a major role by the population. If population is less, area is more, then resources are resources are scattered on major part, and each and everyone will get more share compared to the more populated states. India's population, we know that, has crossed the mark of 131 crore. Now, this is something as India ranks, though India ranks 7th in the world in terms of area, it ranks 2nd in terms of population. Now, speaking geographically, speaking in economical terms, there is stress on the resources in India to provide the better to each and every individual, which is not otherwise possible if social balance or social welfare was not aimed by the government. We can understand that each and every factory will always work for its own betterment, gaining more and more profit. Government do not go for that. So that is the biggest assist. The population also plays an important role as it gives tax to the government, which helps the government to carry on many projects which are always beneficial for the people. And then the occupation. People are distributed among various occupations. These occupations can be divided into primary, secondary, tertiary sectors, and even the skill, that is the quaternary. So we will definitely in the next chapter we will go by the occupations in depth, getting knowledge about it. But here on just the introduction to this, occupations are various. Occupations means here we have to understand that a nation has many of the sources. These sources are to be provided to the people, and in return we take something. So being an agrarian country, because the agriculture is the main commodity or the main occupational source of India, we can come in contact with the people through agricultural products. And these agricultural products in exchange gains economical prosperity to the people who are ready to sell. Definitely the farmers. Apart from that, there is the primary sector, then there is the secondary, that is the production unit. The industries purchase the raw material that is made available in the geographical area in the agricultural sector, which is otherwise abundantly available. They purchase it, goes through the procedure, and this procedure, after converted into a finished good, that is a product, comes to the market. And as it enters into the market, through the market it comes to us. While going in this scenario, we have to understand that the secondary sector, that is the production unit, aims at gaining profit. Now, there are many industries even set up by the government apart from private individuals as far as India is concerned. There are factories related to the fertilizers, even fruit processing factories, jam as we know it in the fruits, the gardens as the fruits are available in a specific season, government purchase it on a large scale, process it and then comes into the market. But majority of the products that are made available to the public because of the government units do not aim at profit. That is the biggest lesson. Whereas private sectors, we know that, makes the best use of all the commodities. The one of the best example for this is, as the season of festival starts, somewhere between the end of Shravan, or as we call it August and beginning of September, till Makar Sankranti, that is January, there are many seasons as throughout the country, and every fortnight, that is after 15 days, one or the other smaller or the bigger seasonal celebration occurs throughout India. Now, this is also the time when sugar, oil, and other commodities in day-to-day life are needed. Also, people go for coloring of their houses. They purchase the vehicles, and this is the time slowly the price hikes takes place. During Diwali, we see many of the advertisements appearing on the television which are otherwise nowhere throughout the year. So, a specific means time period is targeted, and due to this, the markets are flooded by various commodities. People purchase it, so people must get the benefit of whatever they are having, and this money in returns goes to the market, and from market again to the entrepreneur. So this chain from agriculture, that is primary, to the secondary, from secondary to the tertiary is the service sector. This service sector not invest money on large scale, neither they have their own products, but the service they provide are the factors that gives them much more money. And this economy we will try to understand again on a large scale, because there is visible as well as invisible. When give and take is done in the name of a commodity, in the name of a thing, it is visible trade. But when verbally a lecture is being provided giving you the importance of a subject, is an invisible. So both the things, for example, many times it happens that as we move into the market, we get some of the things, we purchase some of the things and we pay for it. So that is visible trade. Coming home, we can show what we have purchased. But the same, if we move to the movies for entertainment, if we move from one place to another using either the railways, airways or the roadways, we can reach our destination. But after that, coming out from the cinema hall or reaching the desired destination, we cannot show exactly what had occurred. The entertainment definitely will provide you the rich health, because you will be satisfied whatever you are having, but you cannot show the public. Whereas a paint being purchased from the market can be demonstrated. So this is visible as well as invisible. Exactly now, going through the lectures online is the best example of invisible trade. So there are various occupations which can be defined as visible or invisible, and because of that, people doing the same at different levels are also the people who are divided accordingly in visible trade or invisible trade. Apart from that, we can also understand that how the nature of the property of the economy can be. That is the functions of the economy. The function of the economy is, if the product is of a quality, it will gain more money. If the product is not of a good quality but is abundantly made available in the market in terms of quantity, people will purchase it but at less price. Today we unwritten phrase, as we call it, the Chinese product. is the best example. All know that it's not very good quality products, but yet we are purchasing because we need it and we cannot pay on a large scale for that. Apart from that, when doing any production, one of the things that the capitalists do is that maximum to gain maximum profit. They try their utmost to maximize the product in least costing. So, because of the maximizing of the product, the costing value goes down, and because of that, the profit they are gaining definitely goes on increasing. Apart from that, making appropriate provisions for the economic needs of the future is also important. Many of particularly in terms of grocery shops, kirana dukan, we can understand that as we know that a festival is approaching, a festive time throughout India or in a specific area is approaching, and there is a need of a certain things, certain commodity. This grocery shop make the best use of the availability of the time, and they hold, what means they secure many of the commodities that will be required in the next month or in the coming time, and slowly the price hike goes on. They purchase the product in list and try to sell them at the maximum profit. Now, this is where the in the mixed economy, social welfare is carried out by the public. Private entrepreneurs will always go with the profit, but during the same time, government entrepreneurship or the government working system, that is the department, various departments of the government will come into action to provide social welfare to the society, not an individual. This is the biggest asset we have to understand here, and this is how the economy in mixed economy work. If we try to understand all this, we will also understand how the economy strive hard to balance between the limited sources and unlimited needs. It is said that man's needs are unlimited. Whatever we try to give him will require more and more. So naturally, to provide each and every commodity to the person is the main aim of all these capitalist, socialist and mixed economy. But to control the price, reaching to each and every individual, or each and every individual must get access to all the products that are made available in the market. The socialist government or the government, as we call it, the social welfare in terms of public sector, takes the steps. It is in this sense a balance between the coexistence of private and public as far as India is concerned is going on during this COVID-19 period. Because of lockdown, the best example of this public sector providing health amenities to the people is that only government hospitals are working on large scale to provide all the medicinal facilities to all the patients throughout India. And for that, because there is a lockdown, even to the railway system, many of the coaches are converted into hospitals. Now, not exactly the hospital, but they are the quarantine centers. Many of the schools, colleges, otherwise used for as an educational system. Also the rest houses that were only for the VIP peoples as they move from one place to another are now being reserved or converted into the places where people will be quarantined for a specific time period in terms of COVID-19 patients. Now, this is the best example in public sector converting for the social welfare of the people as far as we Indians are having it the best example. Hope you have understood this.